Recording. Awesome. Let's get started. So yesterday our focus was mostly on trying to understand what is Python and what tools we need and how to program. So today onwards we'll start programming. Today we will see the more usage of the function that we discussed yesterday, right? So we discussed
Yep.
how print is used, correct? And we
Yes.
said print is a function which prints multiple values onto screen, right? So so we can print multiple values. I can print fixed value like 5 plus 3 equal to, I can print um, um, specific value like 5 plus 3 here. Okay. So here we are
Yep.
trying to print two set of values, right? This is one set and this is another set. So when you run it, you get this set as it is and this set as the evaluation part. And you can have even more portion to it, right? You can say, and 6 plus 4 equal to, and then you can say 6 plus 4. So when you run it, you get 8 and 6 plus 4 equal to 10. Okay. So this is, this is how we print. Okay. Now, if I go ahead and print one more line, say, okay, let's do some other equation. So here, I'll say 5 plus 5, 5 plus 5, 6 plus 14, 6 plus 14. Now, when you run it, you will see that these two statements are printed in two different lines. These are printed in two different lines because we gave them under two different print statement, right? Since we give them into two different print statement, the print statement always starts from beginning. It always starts printing from first line, okay? So that's why, they got printed in two different lines. But let's say I want to print them in same line. For some reason, okay, I need to give them in one print state, sorry, two different print statement, but I want to print them in same line. Okay. So every print statement, okay, so it's like every print statement, okay, has an invisible new line. New line is represented as /n, and this is represented as /n in almost all the languages, okay? So here too, we say /n for new line, and every print has a new line, okay? So that's why if you see here, after print line number 2 also, the process finished with exit code is coming after a gap of one line, okay? This is coming after a gap of one line because this second print also, see, first print, after printing this entire thing, printed next line. This print, after printing entire thing, printed next line. So when the program ended, it ended in one line after, the second output. So because every print has that extra new line, invisible new line at the end. Now I need to remove that. If I want to print both in one single line, I need to remove this new line, right? And to remove this new line, I have to first make it visible, isn't it? To remove this new line, I have to first make it visible. Now, how do I make it visible? Okay. So there's a command called as end, E-N-D. Okay, so there's a command. So this is the second thing we are learning now. First, of course, we learn print function. And second, we are going to learn is called end. End is always given at the end of a print statement. Okay, it is at the end of a print statement. And the reason we are giving this is because we want to override that new line. Okay, so if I say end equal to, and I print space and space, or I print arrow, something like this. Now, whatever we give here, okay, whatever we give here, same thing will be printed at end of this line. So now when I run it, so you see, 10. After 10, space less than hyphen greater than, right? And then you got the other line as appended next to it. Okay. So this is how we are combining two print statement together. Okay. If you have print statement, obviously by default, it will go to next line. But I don't want, okay, this line and this line to be printed at two different lines. So I give end equal to, okay. So by default, every print statement has /n, something like this. Okay, this is the default which is added to every print statement. Okay, even if you don't write, this is what it means. Okay, at the end, okay, after you are done everything in the print, just last command, you'll have end. And you will say end equal to /n. I don't want this. Instead, I want something else. So whatever I want, I'll put it here. Right? So this is the second thing that we have learned. Okay, using end at the end of print statement. All good so far? Yes. Okay.
Excellent.
Now let's say I have a command called print twinkle, twinkle, right? And I can go here and say print little star, right? And obviously, as we run it, we get into a different line. So I'll put here end equal to space. When I put end equal to space, space is added here. And then these two lines are, okay, added together. Okay, this is how end is used. Okay. Now, yesterday we also spoke about variables, right? So we spoke about constant and variables. Now, see, if I have to say 5 plus 3, these are constant, okay? 5 has a fixed value, 3 has a fixed value. I cannot say, let's take 5 and assume it's 6, isn't it? That's not the right way to do it, correct? So we are saying, okay, when you take 5, it is 5. These are fixed value. But there are some situations where your values would change. Sometimes you might want to take only 5. Sometimes you might want to take 6 instead of 5. Okay. So we cannot use 5 and, keep changing the value. So for that purpose, we use variables. Okay. Now, you see, I'm writing this hash sign here. Hash sign is comment in programming languages. Okay. So hash means that um, the text that is followed after hash is not for computer. Okay, so when you run this program, when you go and execute this file, this portion is not executed. This portion is ignored. I can write something here also. Hash sample comment. Now, these comments are for us. Let's say I write a program today and tomorrow you might have to work on it. So you may not know what logic I used, why I used, what is the purpose of using this. So you can read this comment, and comment will help you to understand things better. That's point one. Point two is you yourself will come to this program, let's say, after a few weeks, after a few days, you will forget what you have done, why you have done. So it's always a good practice to put comment, okay? Though comments are ignored, comments are not at all executed by programs, but this is very important part of your programming. Writing good comments, okay, uh, is also part of um, your you being a good programmer, okay? So don't ignore comment, okay? Write nice short comment so that the reader who's going to go through your program is able to understand what you have done, where where you have added any new logic, why you have done. Okay, so it's always a good point. Okay, and see, Preeti, you don't have to raise your hand. You can unmute and ask questions. Okay,
Sir,
yeah.
actually, you are saying about comments, and how do we know that these comments are available, and how do we know what
N-
comment to use
Comments
in
are
that?
you what you want to say. I want to say here, I wanted to tell you, right? Every print statement has an invisible new line, right? So I put it here
Okay,
as a comment. Comment is human, it's for human being. It's our English kind of comment.
yeah.
Okay. You
So
can
it has
put
nothing to do with this Python.
nothing to do with Python except the hash. After hash, you can write in Telugu also, nobody cares. Okay, because Python will not care. What
Okay,
is important for Python is to know whether it's hash or not. If it is not hash, that means it is for Python.
Python.
And when you
So
see
this is for
hash,
only our understanding, right?
correct. Okay, you can write in the beginning of the line, you can write at the end of line, but after when you put hash, after this, whatever you write, you know, it is nothing to do with the program. Okay.
Okay,
Okay. So
thank you.
this is no problem. Another thing that you have to remember here is the indentation. Okay. Indentation is key. Now, what is indentation? Indentation means the space that you give, okay, the space that you give before, um, uh, before writing your first character. Okay. So far, if you see, all these characters that I have written are all exactly below one another. They're exactly below one another, right? So this is how we should be doing. Okay. Even if I give one space before, now see here doesn't matter. I can give space here. It is not going to have any impact on the program. You get same thing. But in the beginning of the character, you cannot give even one single space. Okay, and later we'll see, maybe in third, fourth class, you will see the importance of this. But for now, let's understand that you should start always from first position. Now, when I try to run this, okay, you see, it says indentation error, unexpected indent. So this space was not expected here. So when you give that space, it has a predefined meaning. Okay, we'll talk about it when we do conditions and loops. But for now, just make sure that you do not give even one single space. Now after that, you can give any space here, like here you can give space, here you can give space. It doesn't matter, it does not affect your output, but you should not give space in the very first character. Okay, so this is another thing that I have to remember. Indentation, everything, indentation is important. Okay, in simple program you don't give indentation, but indentation has a predefined meaning, we'll see later. Okay, so indentation is important aspect of programming. Okay, now most of the languages, okay, has semicolon. Okay, at end of the line, to indicate end of a line, you put semicolon. Okay, so Python also has it, but it's not mandatory. Okay, so like semicolon exists Python, but it's not mandatory. Okay, so it exists in Python, but it's not mandatory. That means even if you don't give here, also program will work. You can give or you don't give. In programming languages like Java and C++, semicolon indicates end of a line. Okay, it indicates that you are done with a line and now you're going to start a new line. Python says if you're hitting enter, okay, if you hit enter and if you're printing from next line, I know that you're going to next line. You don't have to tell me that there's the end of this line. Okay, if you hit enter and you're programming from next line, then I know that you are, going to the next line. Otherwise, you don't tell me, okay? You don't have to tell me that you're going to next line. Okay, so it's not mandatory, but it exists. Now, if I have to print something like, okay, here I'll say print, hi there, print, how are you? For some reason, I want to print these two print statement in one single line. Now, in this case, I have to give semicolon, okay, to indicate that this is end of this line, and after semicolon, whatever you give, it's beginning of new line. So here, semicolon is mandatory. Now, if you don't give semicolon, then it sees Python sees this as a one single line command, and it says that you cannot have two print statement in one line. Okay, so you get error here, syntax error. Syntax. Okay, I will talk about what syntax means. But did you understand? So if you want to print two lines together for some reason, which I don't see why, but if you want to put, then semicolon becomes mandatory. Okay, but otherwise semicolon exists. It's there, but it's not so popular. It's not used at all. I mean, you can save some time by not typing semicolon, right? So you will never see semicolon in any book or anywhere in any example because Python works without semicolon. Okay, but for some reason, if you want to print two statements together, then you can give semicolon here. Okay, then you saw syntax, right? Okay, you see this is called syntax error. What does syntax mean? Syntax means that you are not following the rules. It's like grammar of human language, right? Now, when we write our own language, right, English, Hindi, Telugu, or whatever, we need to focus on grammar, right? We cannot write whatever we want to. You have to follow the rules of grammar. I cannot say I going, right? I have to say I am going, correct? So something like that. Syntax means you are not following, grammar is wrong. Okay. So if I say here, okay, I going, okay, so you'll tell me that, oh, your syntax is wrong, right? Your grammar is wrong. So when you do something like that, which is not as per the rule, you will say that syntax error. Okay. You'll get syntax error. So that's what syntax is like, grammar of natural languages, human languages. Okay. A lot of things we have learned in just last 10-15 minutes. We spoke about semicolon, we spoke about indentation, we spoke about the syntax, right? Okay, which is good. Now, okay, we need to do one more concept, okay, which is about handling variables. So far, all good, right? These things are important when you do the program, and these things you will learn when you do 5-10 programs. Okay, these things will not be a problem, but initially you'll face some problem with these things. Okay, so now we'll talk about variables. Okay, now variables are names that we use to give or to read or to give a temporary value. Okay, stores temporary values, right? Now, if you see any text, okay, you will not know, but just by reading the name, you will not come to know whether it is a variable or a string, right? If I write print something like this, it looks more like a variable, okay? But if I put a bracket open and close, then it is a function. It is your function, okay? So let's say I use a value variable, I call variable 1 equal to 5. So what does this mean? It means that create a variable by name var1, which currently has the value 5. Okay. It has value 5 and it will continue to have value 5 until and unless we change it. Now, after 100 lines of code, we might change it. We'll say, okay, no, value 1 is enough. Let's use something else. But until then, it's going to be 5 only. So if I say var1 equal to 5 and var2 equal to 10, and now if I try to print var1 plus var2, and you run it. All right. So this is how you can store a value. Now I can change the value of var1 here. var1 equal to 20. Okay. And we are printing in line number 18. So which line is closest to line number 18? Obviously 16 and 17. So in this case, 14 is ignored, right? Because 14 is var1 equal to 5, and latest that what we have is var1 equal to 10 or 20. So latest value will be taken. All right. We'll talk more about variables, but let's talk about the data itself, which variable has. Okay. What kind of data will a variable have? Okay. So now we are moving to a topic called as data types. Okay. What kind, okay, not what value, what kind of values a variable has. Okay. So the first type, okay, and talking about the basic data type, okay, and we will learn, more data types, but at basic level, you have int, which stands for integer, which has, okay, so integer has all your whole numbers, okay, no decimal part. No decimal part, like you have, okay, so no decimal part, right? So what are the examples here? Like -5, and it can have both integer, your negative and positive numbers, right? So -5, -2, 0, okay, 5, 999, whatever. These are all examples of your integer. Okay, so when I say var1 equal to 20, I'm assigning a value integer to var1. And if you want to see the data type, okay, so we use function called as type. Type function gives the current what am I doing? Okay, gives you the current data type. That's what I was thinking. It's something is doesn't look like D. Okay, so type gives you current data types. Okay, so now I'll say print type of var1 equal to, okay, sorry, type is a function, and I'll say var1. Okay, so type of var1. So you have type. Okay, so this will be printed as it is, right? And this should give us the value. I'm evaluating this. So when I say type of var1, you see, you get class int. Okay, that's called integer data type. So you have integer data type, which does not store any decimal value, which does not store any decimal value. Okay, then obviously we'll have one more type which can store values, right? If you have to deal with 2.5, 3.9, then how do we deal with? So we definitely have another set of data type which is called as float. Okay, so float means your values with decimal. Okay, so if I type here data type float, okay, with decimal types. Okay, so example would be minus 5.9, okay, minus 2.8978, whatever. You can say minus 0.0. Okay, 0 is a whole number, your integer type, but 0.0 becomes float. Okay, doesn't matter even if it has no value, but decimal point means it is of type float. So 0.0, 5.7, whatever, these are all examples of float type, right? So I'll create third variable called as, let's say, 20.5, and now I'm trying to find the data type. Data type, okay, it should be in quotation, right? Data type of var3. Okay, so function is type, and we will say var3. Okay, so you get data type of var3 is float, right? Integer float. Okay, we have one more data type which is of type integer. Okay, sorry, number. So these are all your number type data type. Okay, integer is a number, float is a number. Next, what we have is called as complex. What are complex numbers? Any idea? So what is square root of minus 16? What is square root of 16? Square root of 16
4.
is 4, correct? It could be minus 4 or plus 4, right? Because minus 4 square also gives you 16, plus 4 square also gives you 16. It could be minus 4 or 4, right? Two answers. Now, if you take minus 16, then what's the square root of minus 16?
Some I square like that.
Yes. So we use I in mathematics, iota, okay, or what we call as complex numbers. Okay. So square root of minus 1 is I. Okay. Square root of minus 1 is I. In maths, we call it as I. In Python, we call it as J. Okay. J. Okay. And I'm going to show you 1 second. Okay. So square root of minus 1 is I or J in Python. Okay. So if you say minus 16, right? So, so if I say square of minus 16, so you can write minus 16 as 6 into minus 1, and square root of 16 is 4j. This is what you will get, 4j. Okay. Okay, so let's see how it is done. So I'm going to use variable 4 equal to, now I'm going to say 3 plus 4j. Okay, so I'm saying 3 plus 4j. I'm saying 3 is an integer, and this number is 3 part integer and 4 part imaginary numbers. Square roots are square root of minus 1 are imaginary numbers. So I'm saying plus 4j. Okay. Now if I have to print the type, you can see the data type here.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yes.
Uh, I I tried to print two variables. I mean, two data types of variables in the same line, but I got an error.
Okay. So first thing, okay, probably I should have told you yesterday. When I am doing, when I am writing something, I don't want you to practice with me. Okay. I want you to look at me, look at my screen, understand what I'm doing. Reason being, if you practice parallelly on your own, then your focus will be to get your output. Okay,
Yeah,
your focus is to get your output. You make some small mistake and then you start focusing on your program, you will miss what I'm saying. Okay, so your recording will be given, programs will be given. So you'll have, I think you got my book also, right?
no, sir.
Have you not gone anytime to the institute?
Not
Started?
recently.
No, starting. Okay. Okay. So if not, you will get my book. Okay.
Okay,
So
sir.
you'll have books to practice. Okay. So when I'm doing, I want you to focus onto the screen. Look at every line. I'll give you chance. I will stop, pause. Okay. I'll give you chance to, we can see I'm going slow, right? Even though it's online, I'm not going very fast. Okay. I take break. I pause because I want you to understand, comprehend, and then, move ahead. So when I'm doing, don't do it. Okay. Just focus. See, we have only what, 1 hour of class, right? 1 hour, 15, 20 minutes. And you have 22 hours to practice, right? So you find a time to practice after the class. Okay. So in my class, you just focus on what I am doing. Watch what I'm doing. I'm sure. See, if I am getting, you are not getting, that means you might have made some small mistake, some silly mistake. Okay. Which you will see for some time, you will understand. But what happens by the time you see, you understand, we are already 10 minutes more into the class and you will miss it. So don't practice, just watch what I'm doing. Okay. Now you tell me your questions. You saying that you're copying anything from this one or you have done something on your own?
Yes, I done it my own. So I was trying to print two data types in the same line where I
Data
have
type.
given variable. Yeah,
Data type means type of var1, comma type of var2,
yeah. I did the
right?
same thing, but
Hmm.
I didn't got the
What is the
output.
output you're getting?
Error,
No.
invalid syntax.
Hmm. Invalid syntax means you have not followed the rule, right? You have not followed the rule. So you are missing on the bracket maybe. So type has its own bracket. Okay. So every type has its own set of bracket and print has its own set of bracket. If you don't give one bracket here, you will get syntax error, right? So what does it say? Syntax error, and then what? See, Python errors are very detailed. Okay. By looking at the error, you will 90% of the time you will be able to solve the problem. So here is a syntax error. What does it say after syntax error?
Actually, I have given variable two. I mean,
No, no, no.
var
Hold on, hold on,
two
hold on. You tell me what exactly error you're getting. Syntax error
invalid
colon.
syntax.
No, after that, it will be
Process
pointing to
finished
somewhere,
with.
right?
Yes, the var two equals to 2.33.
Huh?
I given space and where 3 equals to 2.10.33 and big
See,
line.
what did I tell you? When you're giving two things, then you have to give semicolon, right? How can you
Okay.
give same thing? I just showed you that you cannot give two line together. This is one line, this is another line. How can you put them together in one line? You can't. You have
Got
to
it.
give semicolon between them, or better, you put them in different lines. And this is what you expect. They expect you to put them in two different lines.
Yes, I got the output, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. So look at the error. Error is very detailed. It will even point where you are putting error. Okay. So, okay, here when I run it, what do you notice here? Complex, right? So, okay. So, what does it say? It says complex, right? So when you have J, okay, it is complex type. Now, what is A plus B into A minus B? You know what is A
A
plus B
square
into
minus B square.
A square minus B square, right? So now if I say here in this case, okay, 3 plus 4J, okay, into 3 minus 4J. What do you think you will get here? A square. A square is
9
3
minus
square.
16.
Correct. 9. 9 minus, okay, then you get 16 J square. Yes or no? 4J
Yes.
into 4J is 4J square, right? What is J square?
Minus 1.
Minus 1. So what is 16 into minus 1? Minus 16, right? So it is 9 minus minus 16, which is 9 plus
5.
16, which is 25. Okay, so if I say here, var 4 into var 4, var 4 into var 4, right? Oops. Var 4 to var 4 is 5, var 4 square, right? That's not right. So we need to say here 3 into 4, I mean, sorry, 3 plus 4 multiplied by 3 minus 4, right? Now, when you run this is what you're expecting, 25, right? So you got 25. But you see, we started with a complex number. So if you are performing anything with complex number, output is also complex number, right? Output is also complex number. So for example, if I start with, if I say 3.2 plus 2.8, 3.2 plus 2.8 is 6, right? But since we started with decimal values, we need to end with decimal. So what we do, we say 6.0. Similarly, since we started with complex number, should end with complex number, you will say plus 0j. 0j is like 0 only, right? Right? So it is 25 only. But to indicate that it is a complex number, to indicate this value is a complex number, we add 0j. Any questions so far?
No, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So at basic level, Python has 5 data types. Okay. 3 of them are numbers, which we have seen, and there are 2 more. Okay. Okay. One of them is called your string, str. So fourth data type, which is text type, is called str, short form for string. Whether you're dealing with 1 character or 10 characters doesn't matter. It is string only. So if I say var 5 equal to hello, how do you know it's a string? String will always have quotation. String data will always be in quotes. Okay. So it will be in quotes. So if I say print, okay, data type of var 5. Type of var 5. Okay. So it will always be in quotes. Which quotes? It can be single quote or double quote. Okay. You need to use, okay, single quote or double quote, either. Okay. There's no difference between them. You can use either of these. Okay. So single quote also indicates text. Double quote also is for text. Only difference is, okay, only difference is whatever you start with, same thing you end with. If you start with double quote, you have to end with double quote. If you start with single quote, you have to end with single quote, right? All good so far?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So the last one, right? The fifth data type is called Boolean. Is called Boolean. Boolean means either true or false, 0 or 1. This is what we discussed yesterday, right? Okay, it's called bool, 0 and 1, binary type. Okay, binary type is, okay, binary type, it will be either true or false. So Boolean will have just two values, either true or false. Okay. So let's see this. Bool values are your true or false only. Okay. Now see, so far, okay, we are just learning each of these things as individually. Okay. So, each of these lines are independent, right? Though we have written 40 lines of code, but it's really not linked together, right? So what we are doing now, first, we are trying to understand each of these. We are trying to understand what is A, B, C, D. Once you understand it, A, B, C, D, that's when, okay, you are ready to move to next level, which is to form a word, right? And then third level is when you are able to form sentences, right? So my job is to teach you alphabets, words, and grammar. Your job is to learn the grammar, okay, and word, and then form your own stories, right? Okay, so just be patient, just, follow me, okay? Okay. Maybe after 4 or 5 classes, you will be able to understand how we are going to use it for program. But for now, just understand these. Treat these as alphabets. Okay. There's no connection between A and B, right? You have to learn A, you have to learn B. So we are learning A, B, C, D. Okay. Whatever we are doing here, we are learning A, B, C, D. Once we know minimum, okay, that is at least 26 characters, then we'll be able to go and form our own words, right? Which is writing small programs. So hold on, okay? Just be with me. Just try to understand, okay, each of these concept separately. And that's what I'm saying. There is no substitute for hard work, okay? You need to practice this, okay? You'll have a couple of days break. So I want you to practice all of these at least 2 times or 3 times, whatever times you can. Make sense? Okay. You can hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, perfect. Okay. So let's continue. Fifth type is Boolean, and Boolean will have just two values, true or false. True is for yes, false is for no. True is for 1, false is for 0. Okay. Now I can use a variable var6 equal to true. Now if I say print data type of var6, right? var6 equal to type of var6. Okay. Okay. So you get Boolean here, right? So these are your 5 basic data types. Why do we need to know data types? Why do you think that it is important to know data type? So see, the reason is you need to understand the data type. Only then you can perform your operation, right? If I know these are numbers, then we know that we can perform mathematical operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, correct? When we know that it is a number, it is numeric, integer, I can perform addition, subtraction, multiplication. I cannot perform division, multiplication on text data if it is str, string. But if it is string, I can do concatenation, we can do a lot of things, okay? In string, substring, okay? All those things we'll see. We'll take each of these topic, and then we'll try to see what all things we can do on them. But just understand, because based on type only, you can perform certain action, right? If I have to add to values, it has to be integer. Otherwise, if I read as string, I cannot add them together, right? Okay. So these are your 5 basic data types: integer, float, complex. These 3 are your numeric data type. Then you have string, which is your text to handle text data. And then finally, we have Boolean, which is to handle Boolean values, binary values, 1 and 0 values. Okay. Now, when you print all of these, okay, it always has what is called as class preceding it. Okay, it says class integer, class float, class complex. What does that mean? Now, we are going to do object-oriented programming language later, okay, towards the end of our course. We will talk about, class and objects there, but let's understand here for now. Class and objects, or rather class, right? Talking about class only, so we'll focus on class only. Class tells you what properties it can have, right? So, see, when I say, I'm using laptop, for example, let's say if I tell you I'm using laptop, okay, you know what it means, right? You will not ask me what is laptop, okay? If I tell you that I'm playing cricket with laptop, then you'll ask me what, right? What is laptop? Why? How can you play cricket with laptop? You have not seen me, you don't see me, still you will have the question, how can you play cricket with laptop? If I say I'm writing an email, I'm sending an email on laptop, you say, yeah, so what big deal? So what is happening is the moment you hear word laptop, you hear word eating, sleeping, running, okay, there's a meaning that is associated with it. So when I say class has some set of properties. Okay, class has some set of properties, and when I say it belongs to this particular class, let's say, like for example, assume that you don't know the meaning of laptop. You have never heard the word laptop, right? Now, if I tell you I'm using laptop, you will say, what is laptop, right? You will try to understand the meaning of laptop, what it means, how it looks and whatever. Once you know, then the moment I say I'm using laptop, you are trying to match whatever I'm saying to the image that you have, right? So class basically defines a meaning to each of these So basically, class is a collection of functions as well as variables. Okay, so class, okay, it has function of variables and your functions. Functions becomes the properties. So when I say type str, okay, or class str, that means str is a class which has some set of properties. This is what I said, okay, that when you say string, it means something. It means there's some certain aspect. It means that certain things you can do or certain things you cannot do. Okay, so far int, float, complex, these are all your inbuilt, okay, inbuilt classes. Okay, these are your inbuilt classes. So the Python developers have created these classes, and they have added some functions to it. Okay, and when we create our own classes, we will also learn how to add or create a class, add functions and variables to it. So for now, what you need to understand from class is that it's a collection of variables and functions. That means when you say class str, that means there is a class called str which has some set of properties. Okay, it has some set of properties. Okay, what are those properties? We will see when we get deeper into each of these data type. Okay, so that's what we say class. Okay, so the member of class is called object. Okay, when you use the class for some action, okay, so some work, we say object. So when you say who belongs to class, object belongs to class. So what you see here, var6 is an object of class, okay, is a object of class bool. Var6 is object of class bool. Understand? So I'll just write it here. Var6 is an object of class bool, meaning var6 inherits all the properties of class bool. So all the properties that is defined in class bool will automatically get added to var6. Okay. Now, for example, and I'll give you another example. When I say I'm playing with a dog, right? I don't have to tell you the meaning of dog because dog is predefined, right? And you get an idea about what I'm talking about, right? I can say dog, my dog is barking. They'll say, okay, yeah, dogs bark. But if I say that my dog is talking to me, okay, or my dog is coding on the laptop, that's when you get doubt. How can dog? Because we don't associate properties of programming with dogs, right? So that is what class means. Class will give you set of properties, right? Now, why do we define these classes? Now, again, look at the English language. We have defined human being, like we call them men, or you call them dogs, you call them elephants. You know, you will have thousands and lakhs of elephants in the world, right? And we have given a name elephant because even those lakhs elephant comes, you can say that elephants are here. Okay, so you don't have to have a different name for each elephant, right? You don't have to have a different name. One common name will represent entire population. Similarly, class is like that. One common name represents entire data which can have true and false, which can have true and false. Now, one thing you have to remember here is true and false, the spelling is exactly same. Okay, that means it starts with T and starts with capital T or capital F, and rest of the characters are lowercase, right? Rest of the characters are lowercase. So when I put TRUE, only then you get class as Boolean. If I put FLASC, only then you get class Boolean. Okay. If I try to create something like var 7 equal to okay. Now, okay, we want to give something like this, right? Now you see, if I give PyCharm is already red line. When you run it, what happens? Okay, you get exit code 1. Now you see PyCharm will have exit code 0 and non-zero. When you see 0, that means process has finished. That means your program has run successfully. Okay. Program is run successfully when, okay, successfully when exit code is 0. When exit code is 0, that means your program has run successfully. When you don't see exit code 0, you see something else other than 0, that means your program has not run successfully. Now here you see, I see exit code 1, that means error has occurred. You can scroll up and see name error. Name is false is not defined. Okay. Did you mean false? So see, here it can be either a variable, it can be a function, it can be a string, or it can be a Boolean. For it to be a Boolean, it has to be F capital, all small. For it to be a Boolean, okay, it has to be first capital, rest small. For it to be a function, it needs to have bracket open and close, and it needs to be defined. See, the error is not defined. So, okay, you can, if you have a function defined as false, then you have to give bracket open and close. It can be a variable. False as it is can be a variable without any quotation. It can be a variable. It's not Boolean. So only thing it can be is a variable. But we have not defined the value to this to the word false, right? So it is not even a variable, right? Or if you want to use false as it is, then you have to make it as a string. Did you understand so far? Okay, it can be a Boolean, it can be a Boolean, it can be a function, it can be a string, it can be a variable. But for variable, you have to define it something, false equal to 5, 10, 11, whatever. For it to be function, you have to define as a function, right? Function bracket open and close. For it to be Boolean, it has to be F capital, but rest has to be small. So if you want to use value false as it is, then you have to declare it as a string and assign to variable 7. Yes. Okay. So I'll just take a pause for a minute. I want you to go through all these. Okay. Go through all these and let me know if you're okay with it. Okay. If you say okay, that's when we move to the next topic, which is we'll go back to print and we'll see how print can be used in multiple ways. Okay. Print is also very important part. So we'll see how print can be used in multiple ways. Okay. And hopefully that should be our last topic for today. And from Monday, we'll talk about different functions, different operations that we can perform. Okay, integer will have different operations. Your float will have different, of course, float and integer will have similar functions, but your Boolean will have different functions. Okay, so we'll talk about those on Monday. Shall we move ahead? Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So now we are going to look at how print works, okay? And how we can be innovative while using print. So we'll start with some simple example. Okay, so let's say I'm saying quantity equal to 10, price equal to 50, total cost equal to quantity into price, right? So I created one variable called quantity. I've created another variable called price, and I'm calculating total cost, which is price into quantity. Okay, so there is a suggestion here that when you're using variable names, don't use variable names like var1, var2, var3, something like that. Try to use variable names like quantity, price, name, okay? Because okay, when we call them as mnemonics. So when you read them, when you see them, okay, it tells us it tells us some meaning, right? When I use var1, okay, you probably tells you variable one, but what is variable one? What does it contain, right? But here, when you say quantity, oh, you know that okay, there's something has been bought, and this is the number of quantities that were bought. Correct? So it gives you that kind of hint. It gives you that kind of message. So always use such names. You can use even XYZ junk name, okay? But then it will be difficult for us to remember. So always better you use variable names or function names that tells you the meaning what you're supposed to, what you'd be doing with that variable name, right? We use counter, we use quantity, we use name, things like that, so that we are aware, okay, what the program is supposed to do. Here, when you see, okay, without me doing anything, okay, you can probably guess, right, what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to calculate the total cost of 10 pens, 10 books, or 10 whatever, which has a cost price of 50 rupees for each one of them, right? Okay, so total cost. Now I want to print this together here. So see this, I'm assigning value here, I'm assigning value here, and this variable total cost is dependent on two other variables. Now if I type total cost here, you will get 500, right? Now instead, if I make it 11, right? I don't have to change anywhere else. Just change the quantity equal to 11 at one place, and automatically other places will have its values, right? We don't have to, tell it again and again, right? Okay. Now, what I want to do here is, okay, I want to print, okay, all these values. I want to print all these values together. So I can use something like this. Cost of, okay, each pence. Cost of each pen is, okay, one price. Price, right? Okay. So cost of each pen is, this is the fixed text, right? Comma price, because price can change. It is 50, but it can be 55, it can be 60, right? So, so instead of writing 50, I will directly put the variable name so that when I run it, okay, it will replace itself with the value, right? So cost of each pen is, price will be replaced with value 50. The cost of each pen is like 50. So the total cost of, right, quantity, total cost of, let's say 11. Okay, spelling mistake. So always better you copy and paste. Okay, total cost of 11 pence would be total cost, right? And when you run it, you see, you get cost of each pen is 50. So the total cost of 11 pens would be 550. Okay, fixed text variable, fixed text variable, fixed text variable. Now, if I change it to 12, I change it to 47. Okay, still you see, the statement holds valid. This is the beauty of using variables in your print. Okay, we don't want to have a fixed values in our print. Otherwise, if value changes, your print statement will not be able to handle the changed value. So that's why we use variables and fixed statement together. Now, okay, now you see your opening, closing quotation. Okay, opening and closing, opening, closing. It can be tiresome or confusing at times, right? So instead, what we'll do is we use something called as format string. Format string. So print, okay, quotation, this is how we use. But for format string, we print F before quotation. Clear so far? We are putting F before quotation. F before quotation means that we are going to use formatting ahead. If you don't put F, then you won't get what I'm trying to show here. Okay, now I will take this output which I want, I'll put it here. Obviously, when you run it, you get same output. And if you change it to 48, this will not get reflected. The other statement will get reflected, right? But this is not getting reflected. This is still wrong. So what do we do? Once we put F in quotation, wherever you have these values, right? Just replace that with the variable. So this is supposed to be our price variable. This is supposed to be our quantity variable. This is supposed to be our total cost or this variable. Now again, when I run it, obviously, since we are putting variable name, you'll get variable name only, right? How will Python know that you want to replace the variable name with its value? Python will not know. So first thing is, okay, put one quotation, then you replace the values with a variable name. And the last step is to indicate that these are variables, you put curly bracket before and after. Curly bracket. Okay, curly bracket you need to put before and after. Okay, curly bracket. Okay, so when you say curly bracket and then you put these statements, it knows, okay, curly bracket means this is a variable and it needs to be replaced with its value. So see this? Now you make it as 17. Oops. Still you get it. Okay, so this is how F or format string is used. Now, if I don't use F here, if I delete F, what happens? Okay, this will be printed as it is. So there's no one to tell to the print or to the quantity or total cost that you need to be replaced. Only the format would know. Yes. So this avoids, okay, the necessary or need of closing bracket, opening bracket. Okay, you just put all these things together and replace the values with variables and just put flower bracket before and after. Okay, so I want to give you a couple of assignments because you have a long break coming, right? Shall we meet on second or not? You guys tell me. You guys say yes, we'll meet. Otherwise, we'll not meet.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't have any problem.
Sure. So we'll meet on Monday as well. Okay. So what I was saying, assignment, yes. Okay. Like refer to lines 51 to 56 right below program. You need to solve it, okay? Write a program to calculate area and perimeter of a rectangle. Write a program to calculate a program to calculate area and circumference of a circle. Okay, think and do it. I've already shown you here. This is the way to do it. Okay, so just try to do it. Okay. Okay. Yeah, we'll stop here. Okay. I don't want to do a lot of things initially. Initially